Hold here, and prepare to assist in a secondary capacity.
Sybistra coldly ordered her regulators, who were staring with wide eyes at the sight of Dr. Grine in the flesh.
I need not remind you that you are under oath to hold your tongue when we deal with these interlopers.
Understood, ma'am, Slara answered, before any of the other regulators could speak up. You all heard the lictor. Zevrik, maintain overwatch with the remaining drones. Vexar, set up a defense on the main door and get ready to hold the line. Everyone else, assist Dr. Grine's staff.
Ma'am.
Several of the regulators saluted and immediately carried out their duty, while others hesitated and slowly meandered about. Sybistra made note of those names for later. The Order of the Infernal Harmony had already been purged of much of their weakness. There was always the opportunity to cut more out before the rebuilding began. Lictor, what do we do? Slara asked her once the two of them were alone.
This'll be a tough fight, Sybistra admitted stoically, though we are hardly weak ourselves. Grine, she called out. Do you have a way out if we need it?
Carl and the others are using the secret tunnels to position themselves, Grine called back, as he typed something on a console on the other side of the room, causing a canister on the nearby desk to open and hiss and a puff of smoke. If we can't use them, we still have other options, but I have no desire to abandon this place unless I have to. Then we fight. Slara grimly nodded.
Indeed.
Sybistra nodded, as she kept her eyes on the rest of her order, as they carried out their orders.
Somehow they followed us, and I don't like it. Say what you will about our combat effectiveness, but I personally vetted everybody for loyalty. There's no traitor among our ranks that I can't detect.
Then they clearly resorted to other methods. Slara allowed a rare sigh, wincing as the motion caused her facial wounds to flare up once again. Regardless, they are here, Lictor. What exactly is going on? It is clear that the Redeemer was a false patron, but I don't understand the details.
You will soon enough. I had planned to induct you and several of the others into the court myself, as part of our next wave of expansion, Sybistra admitted. Now it's just you. The others will be mind-wiped for operational security until I deem them worthy enough of the honor. Even if they won't talk freely, they can still be compromised.
You honor me, Lictor. Slara bowed her head in respect before she began casting.
Carl, what is your status?
Grine hissed into his comms, as he rushed to a terminal in front of one of the medical pods, examining the data for the moment before engaging the unlock.
They're approaching slowly, the Zarek growled. We're in position and ready to engage. Some of them are fanning out, but the main body is heading right towards you.
Any idea how? We should be hidden, the doctor cursed.
Zvajul knows what he's doing. It can't be anything magical, Carl snarled.
It's likely the regulators were followed here unknowingly, Svajul sighed. Probably via some sort of tech. I knew this was a poor choice of rendezvous.
No matter, Grine curtly retorted, as he took a step back and observed his handiwork.
It will be a perfect opportunity to conduct some tests.
The pod hissed loudly, as pressurized gas escaped from its seals, filling the air with a noxious mist that stank of chemicals and decay. The reinforced glass frosted over, obscuring the monstrous shape within. A series of heavy metallic clunks echoed as the locks disengaged one by one. Sybistra strode over curiously, her spiked chain coiled around her armored wrist, as she glanced towards the stasis pod with disdain.
Grine, if this is another one of your unstable disasters... This isn't unstable,
Grine snapped back angrily, before his voice dripped with a rare hint of arrogant pride.
This work is merely a fraction of my genius.
Slara, stationed near the doorway, tightened her grip on her staff, her sharp eyes narrowing as the temperature seemed to drop. Whatever that thing is, make sure it doesn't turn on us.
Oh, it won't.
Grine chuckled darkly, as he made sure to challengingly lock eyes with each of them.
Not unless I tell it to.
The final lock disengaged with a deafening clang, and the pod's glass door swung outward with a groan. A massive hammer-like hand shot out, gripping the edge of the pod and leaving deep gouges in the reinforced metal. The creature within stepped forward, its form monstrous and grotesque. It stood nearly 7 feet tall, its heavily muscled body covered in pale, veiny flesh, with clear signs of invasive surgery and flesh warping. Its elongated skull was crowned with jagged spines, and its eyes glowed with a sickly green light. Its chest pulsed with an eerie, rhythmic glow, as though a reactor powered its mutated heart. Tubes of chemical fluid snaked across its back, feeding into ports embedded in its flesh, which ripped out in a gush of many-coloured fluids as it stood at attention. My close contact with the outsider gave me insights, Grine coldly announced, as he observed several of the other pods opening, revealing other mutated monstrosities, many looking different, some even flawed, but all strong in their own way. And House Malkar gave me the resources in a trade, including some very interesting outsider blood samples I've utilized in my research, though sadly there was not enough for everything I had planned. The creatures turned their glowing eyes toward Grine, who gave a sharp command. "Target the invaders," he coldly sneered. "Tear them apart." "Wait for my signal." Cole growled a whisper over comms with a toothy grin. "Let them come. Oh yes, Captain. Just like old times." Several of the unknown figures reached a bottleneck in the ruins, a narrow street littered with debris and flanked by crumbling walls. Carl raised his hammer high, and with a sharp, guttural cry, brought it crashing down on a section of the overpass he had been hiding behind. With a thunderous roar, the structure collapsed, sending tons of rubble down onto the cultists below. Yells erupted as the debris crushed several in an instant, breaking their advance. "Attack now!" Cole roared, leaping from the crumbling edge of the overpass. He descended like a meteor, his hammer glowing with green magical energy as he smashed it into the head of the first standing cultist he had aimed for. The woman's body reduced to bloody ash and shattered metal, as the hammer released a mighty concussive blast of energy that knocked several others down from the force. "Come!" Cole roared out into the darkness with pure battle-fuel glee. "Come and kill me if you can!" Defenders emerged from hidden positions in the rubble, firing down on the cultists. Energy weapons flared, grenades detonated, and in just a few seconds the battle began and immediately descended into chaos. Carl wasted no time as he moved for the enemy ranks. A cultist charged him with a crackling plasma blade, only for Cole to intercept the swing with his hammer, smashing the man fully in the ribs and sending him flying, his weapon shattering on impact. Suddenly, there was a loud whining sound as a large hulking figure launched itself at Carl from the side, narrowly missing his head with the bloody arm-mounted chainsword they had attacked with. Carl sidestepped with deceptive agility, his eyes widening as he saw the bolted metal plate covering the face of his attacker, and as they turned for another attack, the veteran saw the rest of the gruesome cybernetics of the cyberzombie as they revved up the chain gun, bolted to their other limb. "No you don't!" Carl snarled, as he used his momentum to close the distance and bring his warhammer up in a devastating uppercut. The cyberzombie's torso cracked and buckled under the blow, sparks and fluids spraying as it crumpled to one knee, and Carl snarled as he struck, again and again, the powerful magic of his hammer keeping the cyberzombie down as it fought to stand up, still alive. More cultists closed in, firing wildly as they charged. Carl raised his free hand, activating a personal energy shield that deflected incoming rounds with a ripple of light. He snarled and charged, sweeping his hammer in a wide arc that sent bodies flying like ragdolls. "Is that all you've got?" he yelled out in a challenge, standing atop a mound of rubble, his chest heaving as he surveyed the carnage. Around him lay the broken remains of several of the intruders, and Carl spat in disgust for spotting the symbol of the burning skull on one of the bodies, illuminated by the glow of his warhammer, along with the blood and oil staining the ground. A single shot rang out. The bullet struck Cole's shoulder plate, piercing the edge of his armor and grazing his scaled flesh. Barely feeling the hit, he snarled and turned his gaze upward, scanning the jagged rooftops for the source. On a crumbled building overlooking the battlefield, he spotted a pale figure with long silvery hair perched with a sniper rifle in hand. The white, scorned face grinned widely, skin stretching taut over her angular bones as her eyes gleamed with an eerie yellow light. "You look like you're having fun!" the trickster called out, her voice laced with mockery. "I like to have fun too. It's a rush I'll never get bored of. I feel alive again. Come on!" Carl roared in rage at the mockery and leapt from his position, charging across the battlefield with terrifying speed for his size that surprised the cocky trickster. She fired again, her well-honed reflexes allowing her to land a clean, accurate shot. The high-powered round struck Cole's knee, denting his armor and causing him to stumble mid-stride.
"You'll need more than that to stop me, corpse!"
Carl bellowed, his eyes narrowing as he pressed forward.
"Oh yes, Captain. Yes, she will."
"Fine by me!" the trickster cackled as she fired again, though Carl dodged this time as he closed the distance. "You aren't doing anything down there!" Carl grinned, showing his sharp reptilian teeth, a motion that made the trickster stop for a moment, before Carl used his momentum and threw the hammer as hard as he could straight towards the white. The hammer flew much faster and higher than the trickster predicted, and it was only through her long unlife of experience that she dodged at the last moment. "Missed!" she mocked. Oh fuck!" She leapt back, as suddenly Carl blinked up the roof, his hand firmly around the haft of the hammer, which he pulled out of the wall before he followed through with another swipe.
"It'll be over in one good hit,"
Carl snarled as he refused to let up.
"Doesn't matter if you have a phylactery to bring you back. I'll kill you again and again so hard your remains won't even be worth skull fucking. Oh yes, Captain. Yes, I will."
The trickster slung her rifle over her shoulder and swiftly drew a pair of finely crafted heavy pistols, no longer cocky, keeping her distance as she peppered Carl with rapid fire. Bullets struck his armor and ricocheted off his energy shield, though if any of them did any damage, Carl didn't show it. The trickster spun and ducked low to avoid a hammer blow, but cursed as she was forced to leap back to avoid a backswing that came far more quickly than she thought possible. The weapon clipped her, sending her spiraling across the debris-strewn rooftop.
"What's the matter?" Carl snarled. "I thought you lived for this. Well, not for long."
The trickster smirked as a buzzing sound rang out from behind Carl, who just about spotted the drone zooming towards them before it smashed into the ground between them and exploded. The force of the shockwave rocked the battlefield, sending both combatants sprawling in opposite directions along the roof. The trickster recovered first, her supernatural agility allowing her to roll to her feet. She spat a curse and glanced at Carl, who was shaking off the debris and readying himself for another charge. "Sorry, big guy," she called out, backing into the shadows, cackling as she fled. "Another time, Babs." Carl stood amidst the dissipating dust, his hammer still glowing with residual energy. His snarl deepened as he scanned the ruined streets, but there was no sign of the trickster.
"Coward,"
he muttered, planting his hammer against the ground.
"Pathetic cuck!"
Skitterdeath snarled, as he shrugged off the torrent of plasma rounds sent his way. With a guttural growl, he leveled his twin Gatling blasters and unleashed a barrage of fire that easily churned the concrete cover the mercenaries were hiding behind, obliterating the hiding soldiers moments later. One brave warrior charged Skitterdeath from above with a vibro-spear in an attempt to disrupt his cybernetics, but Skitterdeath lashed out, snapping it in half with barely a flick of one of his lightning claws, before stabbing the defender fully in the torso with the other, lifting him effortlessly, before slamming him into the nearest wall with bone-shattering force.
"Zucks! Where are they coming from? Cuck!"
Skitterdeath hissed. "Subtle signs of power draw from underneath the large structure ahead," an excitable voice chittered, as the young face of a lister with pure white fur, red eyes, and a notched ear showed up on his head.
Matches the location my drones track those regulators to. I mean, hell, these guys were really well hidden, but it's a good thing I'm a super awesome hacker that—
Shut up! Cack!
Skitterdeath snarled at the motor mouth.
They must be using a tunnel network. Find the entryways and mark them.
Sorry, on it!
Zax quickly responded, as they focused on piloting their legion of drones, marking targets for the cyber zombies. Ahead, a barricade of rubble blocked Skitterdeath's path, manned by several defenders who didn't hesitate to send a volley of missiles streaking towards him. With surprising agility, he sidestepped one missile and simply swatted another aside with one of his claws, the resulting explosion barely slowing him down as he charged the barricade and leapt, his massive frame crashing down on a soldier that failed to move in time, who he quickly dispatched with a point-blank volley of plasma fire that bisected them from the head down. The defenders scattered, scrambling to regroup, but Skitterdeath was already upon them. He lunged, slashing with his lightning claws, the energized blaze cutting through steel and flesh alike as they dripped with blood and oil alike. Sparks and gore flew as he cleaved through a hastily placed turret, bisecting the operator behind it in the same motion. Another mercenary armed with a shoulder-mounted plasma cannon fired point-blank. The shot struck Skitterdeath square in the chest, sending a pulse of energy rippling across his armor. He staggered back a single step before snarling and charging forward, his blasters ripping the man apart in mere seconds. Suddenly, the wall to his left exploded outward with a deafening roar, sending chunks of concrete and rebar flying in all directions as something smashed through with a loud, high-pitched scream, his massive fist swinging like a wrecking ball. The blow connected with a thunderous crack, sending Skitterdeath to smash into the side of a nearby crumbling building, shattering the wall on impact, and causing a cascade of debris to drop down and bury him. For a moment, all was still. Then the next moment, dust and debris suddenly exploded into the air as Skitterdeath burst out roaring in eager rage.
Finally! Something worth killing! Cack!
The creature roared and charged again, but this time Skitterdeath was ready. He sidestepped the creature's swing with supernatural speed as his claws sliced into its side, causing it to convulse violently as it staggered past him. The mutant retaliated with a desperate backswipe of his massive arm, but Skitterdeath ducked low, before slamming both claws upward into the creature's torso, pumping it full of electricity. The creature howled in pain as its flesh quickly began to boil and blacken, but before Skitterdeath could finish it, something big and fast slammed into him, forcing him to roll and rapidly recover, as a second mutant made themselves known, a third following close behind.
Come on!
Skitterdeath roared, spreading his claws wide in a gesture of challenge.
The Destroyer himself smiles upon me. You are nothing!
The second mutant closed the gap, its bladed arm slicing through the air with a high-pitched whine. Skitterdeath dodged the initial swipe with uncanny speed, ducking under the razor-sharp arc and countering with a slash that raked across its midsection. The creature retaliated with a roaring backhand swing that caught Skitterdeath in the shoulder, spinning him to the side. But before it could follow up, Skitterdeath twisted and drove one claw upward through the beast's stomach as he spooled up his Gatling blaster, destroying the mutant from the inside out with a quick burst, before backpedaling quickly to avoid a hammer-like fist from the first one. Detecting the sound of movement behind him, Skitterdeath quickly jumped to the nearest wall and kicked off of it. He saw the third strange mutant lob something at him, the block of asphalt zipping underneath him as he closed the distance in a blur of motion. He juked the mutant as he got within his guard and tackled it to the ground before plunging both claws into its head, electricity quickly frying its brain before it collapsed, smoke rising from his shattered skull. The last one roared and charged, forcing Skitterdeath to brace himself, his claws crackling with energy as he met the creature head-on. The momentum of the impact sent him skidding back, but he held his ground as his claws locked with the mutant's massive hands, before he suddenly drove his mechanical knee into the creature's midsection, breaking the grapple and sending it reeling back, not from any pain, but just from the sheer strength of force. Advancing forward with a snarl, Skitterdeath launched himself at the mutant, his blasters firing at point-blank range. The bullets tore into the creature's chest, stopping it from rushing back. He capitalized on the opening, slashing at its knees and bringing it to the ground before he leapt onto its back and drove his claws deep into the creature's spine. With a ferocious roar, he ripped upward with his claws, severing its spinal cord in a spattering of gore.
Cack!
Skitterdeath coughed as he walked away from the fresh carnage.
Zax! Status!
Whatever those weird things are, they're slowing us down, the lister warned. They've taken out a bunch of the cyber zombies, and I'm having trouble tracking them. Don't seem to be many, though.
Converge at the target building. Make them come to us,
he growled.
Take them!
A sudden rush of air and the faint whistle of a descending object snapped his attention upward, his reflexes kicking in just in time to barely avoid the hammer aimed for his head, grazing off his snout as he stumbled back. His crimson eyes narrowed as he fixed his gaze on his attacker. Master Carl stepped forward with a confident grin.
Enough games, he sneered. Should have known you'd be a bunch of destroyer tards. You insult the destroyer's name. His embrace awaits you, lizard. Cack!
Skitterdeath snarled as he extended his lightning claws, aggressive snapping sparks dancing between them. Carl smirked, hefting his hammer.
I'll break you long before that happens, vermin. Oh yes, Captain. Oh yes, we will.
Suddenly, the Zarok dashed forward, swinging his hammer as Skitterdeath dodged to the side at the last moment, the weapon narrowly missing his shoulder before retaliating with a lightning-fast slash of his claws, which was blocked by Carl bringing up his hammer in guard before swinging again in a low sweep, forcing Skitterdeath to leap over the attack. The movement was almost graceful, but Carl anticipated the dodge and twisted his swing upward, catching Skitterdeath mid-air and sending him hurtling back. With a snarl, Skitterdeath recovered quickly and surged forward, firing his Gatling blasters at Carl, who raised his hammer like a shield, deflecting most of the shots, but though he was able to cover his face and torso, several burned through his shields and caught him in the sides and legs. Though he had the awareness to block a stab of the lightning claws, he was still knocked off balance as Skitterdeath slammed his shoulder into the reptile, followed up by another devastating claw swipe that caught Carl as he pedaled back, dripping blood onto the cracked pavement. He swung his hammer in an arc, forcing Skitterdeath to pull back from his attack, though a backswing caught him in the chest with a mighty crack.
You're strong, Carl rumbled through gritted teeth. But I'm stronger! Nobody can kill me!
Carl roared in a battle cry as he charged.
Even gods can die! Cack!
Skitterdeath sneered mockingly as he hit the ground running, his twin Gatling guns honed in on the Zarok, before he was suddenly sent flying as a beam of shadow stuff blasted him off his feet.
Back, beast,
Zvazul commanded, his voice a calm but menacing hiss. Skitterdeath growled as he quickly picked himself up, roaring in frustration as he dug his claws into the ground to stop himself from being pushed further.
Yet more meat to the slaughter! Cack!
You should be honored to die by my hand,
Zvazul mocked as he settled in a confident stance, flourishing his sword and staff, both looking like they were made of pure shadow stuff with the way they dulled and smoked.
It's been a long time since I found a worthy foe to really cut loose on.
No!
Sabistra called over comms.
We need you to portal us out of here. Grant's creatures are holding them off, but there's too many of them and we can't afford the losses. We need to go.
Zvazul hissed in genuine anger, but he agreed with the logic.
Cock-blocking bitch. You're the reason they're here.
He still muttered, where only he could hear, before he tapped his staff on the ground, whispering a few words under his breath, enveloping him and Carl in dark light for just a moment, before they both disappeared.
Nobody escapes the slaughterhouse! Cack!
Skitterdeath bellowed, lunging forward but only scraping air.
Get to the vault entrance! Now!
He snarled.
We need to grab whatever information they have on the outsider before they escape.
the trickster warned in a hiss.
No problem, Tricky Wicky,
Zax cheerfully chimed in, as the large mechanical drone containing the protective sarcophagus of the techie walked up the road on 6 legs now the path was clear, quickly convening at the entrance of the building, where 2 cyber zombies were stood aimlessly, unable to get past the fully sealed blast door.
Okay. That might be a problem.
Out of my way! Cack!
Skitterdeath snarled, with only the urgency of their mission staying his claws from tearing the young idiot apart, as he strode up to the false wall panel that contained the keypad, not fooled in the slightest by the deception, before plunging his left claw into it, piercing through metal and circuitry with a sickening crunch, sparks flying from the panel, as if it were protesting the intrusion. A harsh sizzle immediately filled the air, as the flesh on his arm began to blacken and smoke, the acrid scent of burning fur and flesh, mixing with the ozone tang of fried electronics, as Skitterdeath didn't even flinch. His red eyes narrowed in focus as lines of code crossed his vision, before forcing his will upon it to obey him. He tilted his head, as if listening to the faint hum of the system's internal workings. Then, with a sudden, forceful jerk of his charred and burnt claw, the console let out a tortured screech, as with a low rumble, the blast doors began to slide open.